You're listening to One Bright Star's Life After Loss, a podcast that's focused on the lifelong journey of life after loss, with your hosts Erica Fisher and Alicia Moore. One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholz and Associates. And now, One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast.
Hello and welcome to One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast. I'm Erica Fisher, Executive Director with One Bright Star.
Alicia Moore, President of One Bright Star.
And today we have Danielle Duffy.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have you here. So Danielle, I met you through One Bright Star and you reached out to us.
Yes.
You want to tell us about that?
Yes. I've known about One Bright Star for some time, and I believe the first event was the Comfort Coffee. I know one of the board members and I had chatted about this idea of getting together informally at local coffee shop and just connecting with other bereaved moms. And then, it kind of evolved from there. My daughter attends the children's camp, which we find very valuable. And then I knew you were launching a podcast. So
That's
I reached
awesome.
out.
And Emily?
Yes.
She's fun. She's a fun kid. She's 7 now? 6?
She is.
6,
almost
7,
8.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, she's fun. So, and tell us about your other kiddos.
Yes. So my husband and I live in Lake Crystal on our family farm. We have 4 beautiful kiddos. And oldest Emily, almost 8. Our son Blake, who passed away. And then Owen, who is now 4 today, actually.
Happy birthday, Owen.
And then Sibley, who just turned 2.
Wow. You have your hands full.
It's great. It's
Absolutely.
My heart is full.
That's a great way to put it.
And I tell you what, Danielle, you mentioned the kids in the order of your children. Mm-hmm. And you have Emily as the oldest, and you said Blake passed away. Can you tell us about Blake?
Yes, absolutely. So our son Blake, 2016 was, a normal year. So we thought, and we were getting ready to go camping, and it was Labor Day weekend. And so that's just kind of what we do with family and friends. And, I went, checked on him during nap, and he never woke up. So he passed away at 17 months old, unexpectedly, to sudden unexplained death of a child, and which we had never heard of.
I've never heard of it.
It's essentially SIDS, but it's categorized as a child between the ages of 1 and 18, and it remains unexplained after, the autopsy, medical records, family history, genetic testing, all of the above. And at that point, there's still no explanation. Essentially closure. A seemingly healthy child goes to sleep and their heart stops naturally. So it rocked our world, as you can imagine.
Yes. Yes. You told me right before we went on, Danielle, that you mentioned SIDS. And so people talk or hear about SIDS, and that's usually children that pass, infants from
under 1 year old.
Okay.
Yes, and again, there's a stigma as ways to prevent it, and you cannot. With SUDC specifically, because I've kind of there's a SUDC.org is a foundation, and they provide free resources to families. They're a private organization, but you cannot predict it or prevent it at all. And there's a large number of families in the United States that experience this traumatic, unexpected loss of their child.
Yes. Oh
Traumatic.
My gosh. Absolutely.
Definitely traumatic. That's
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I take it that Blake was probably healthy and just a vibrant, happy-go-lucky little guy.
Yes. So it was the summer. So absolutely. I remember it's very interesting, I can't even put the word on it, but that week I remember daycare was closed. And so we had a lot more time with him. My mother's, they were all hands on deck. I was home. And it was a Friday morning, and we were ready to walk out the door, and it just our world changed. The 3.5 years. Well, let's go back to that. So he passed away in September, and We had just started talking about having another child. We've always wanted three. Three was a big family to
Okay.
us. And
Yes.
and so we ended up being pregnant with my son Owen, who's now 4, like right after that.
Okay.
And then Sibley was born. And so it was a lot of emotions, a lot of grief, like very confusing, really paralyzed in grief. I think, honestly, for like 3.5 years until more recently, when our kids just get a little older, it's, I would say, maybe easier to kind of breathe, take a breath a little bit. But
I
we
like
were
how
so
you
busy.
said paralyzed by grief.
Literally.
Yeah.
I think.
Because it consumes
Yes.
everything.
We had a lot of big changes. So we had 2 births. We moved just down the road. Just a lot of changes that, again, you question, should we have another child? Should we? Honestly, I knew in my heart, but it was scary. It was probably being pregnant with our son, Owen, hardest thing ever too, on top of everything
yes.
else. But I held on to that hope, and I think I just needed Owen to get through. Like, I think God knew I needed him. I remember, I have a lot of vivid dreams in general, and I'm trying to really get in tune with like intuition and such. And for the first couple months, Blake appeared in my dreams. Like he had beautiful blue eyes and curly blonde hair, just like this old soul. I remember he would protect his sister a lot, and they were very close in age. And so it was until I was pregnant with Owen, those dreams stopped. And I think that pregnancy like held me on, even if I was just emotional all the time. But it was reflecting back really what I needed at that time. So
that's amazing that you can look at that now and say that you needed that, and that you recognize that.
Absolutely. Something I remember, Danielle, and now this is just, it brings it, around and brings it all together. When I saw a family picture of yours, you have a picture of Blake, and I believe maybe Emily is holding the picture of Blake, and I think it's all 4 kids in the picture. And I just thought that was the neatest thing ever.
We started to do that when Owen was born. He had a onesie that said God picked this, perfect child from heaven, and then Blake's picture, and then we've included that in it. And I love that. Yes.
I love that.
I do too.
I think that's awesome.
I do too.
It's a little thing that can go a long way.
Yes, he'll be forever your 17-month-old.
I know,
and that's just wonderful. I love that you had dreams too.
It's wild. I hold on to them so dearly, and even now, I can tell you, I don't know what it is, but recently I've had a couple of very surreal dreams, and a friend of mine, it was pretty beautiful, and I have yet really to process what the meaning of it, but she had a dream with Blake in, and there was symbolized a hot air balloon and myself. Him and I were riding in it together. And if you look that up, it's like changes and transformed spirits of like
Isn't
myself.
That crazy?
Yes. Yeah. You need that. You need that hope. That is just wonderful.
It is hope. Hope is, a friend of mine who I met pretty close to when Blake passed away, reached out. I didn't know her, and thankfully she reached out. I couldn't believe that there were other moms in the area that had lost a baby in whatever way, but we met for coffee.
Yes.
And she read this book called Choose Joy by Kay Warren, I believe, and I bought like so many copies, and I would gift them to people, because just any struggle you're going through, you have to choose joy, and it's okay to feel good. It took me a really long time to accept that good, whether it be like,
right.
Someone stopping by, that you just really got to hold on to that. And so now I create joy lists in my day. I know by now what gives me joy, and really it just kind of that stems from that, the joy, and then the gratitude through the grief, even if not every day is going to be good. there's always the joy and sorrow that coexist. So
find the
that's my
joy.
point.
Yeah.
Yes. I like that. People talk a lot about gratitude lists, but that joy list, that's great, especially when you're in the situation that you are grateful for things, but that joy is so important because your heart, when you told us today your heart is full, that is amazing for what you've been through, that you are able to say that. And that shows your strength and courage. And so
it was really recent until I really just started to say it. But I think it's accepting that too. It's been there. But
Yep,
but
you just
it's
got to
taken
get to that
time
point.
accept it.
It's your journey.
it's your journey. Exactly. It's your journey. Tell us about Sibley. You said that there's a story about her because I think her name is just beautiful. I love that.
So honestly, I mean, I don't know if we would have ever imagined having a fourth child. It's just pregnancy in general. It's a journey. It's been a journey. And so Sibley came, and she has a vibrant red hair, curly red hair. She's a Spitfire at 2 years old, and we had always had a difficult time agreeing on a name. And a friend of mine chose, she had brought this up, and, we love Sibley Park, the community aspect of it. But when Blake passed away, my work employer bought a tree and planted it next to the playground at Sibley Park. And so we visit there. It's a really memorable and
comforting place.
Place to visit there. So that's what I mentioned. And she's just been a joy to our family. Like,
she completes it.
She does.
Yes.
And somebody I read somewhere, somebody asked this question, and I had never thought of it this way, but they asked, how do you honor Blake but also honor your living children, you parent? How do you co-mix that? And honestly, I guess for me, there's many ways you can do it, but through my parenting is really where I honor Blake. And obviously I see him through their eyes, so they give me comfort.
That's very, very beautiful.
Yes.
I can barely leave the house for a night, I'll work up to that. But I find the most comfort when I'm in the presence of my kids on our farm, and it's right there. I guess that's just
Your
I know
place.
my heart just beats fast.
Right.
And just comfort.
And you feel Blake there. You feel everyone, your family is together.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that's really neat.
It sounds
good
like you
for
have
you.
an amazing family. So I'm wondering, you said Emily and Blake were pretty close in age. How was it with Emily during the grief process, the loss process?
That's a really good question, and I'd love to talk about that as I'm still continuing to learn. So when we experienced this loss, it was, how's mom? How's dad? And Emily was 2.5. So they were, I believe, 16 months apart, just under that. And so peas in a pod, best friends. And she was home that day and obviously knew what was going on, and we tried to protect her. Hadn't gone to kind of maybe the main funeral and such, and everything at that age you think is fine. We're protecting her, and now she's almost 8. And just recently she'll mention memories, she'll ask questions, she'll see an ambulance, and there's just something there that isn't right. It terrifies her. And so it really awoke me in the sense that I really need to parent her needs and such. So we started some play therapy, and art has been the best thing for her. They're currently, every time she goes, she continues on this story of Blake and the memories, and it's going to be one big thing, and I can't wait to hear it. But she just really connects through art.
She does. At the children's mini camp.
I'm definitely not an artsy person, but I love that she is artsy, musical, and we're going to hold on to that. But also when I tuck her in at night, I'll have a side conversation, and she'll just spew all her emotions, and she'll mention Blake probably every single day. She just wants to be heard. And it just never really clicked for a while, because I was trying to, get through, support myself, our family. I mean, it was just unimaginable. And just years later, though, it's just unbelievable what is really coming out of her mouth. And just, I don't want any unresolved grief necessarily. So we make sure to surround her with support, go to the children's camp, the play therapy, and really just be tentative to her needs. And it's just, I've become a better parent, quite frankly. From this experience.
You already are amazing.
Yes.
It's really, I will say, 2019, since having our, probably our last child, really, I say, awoken my senses. I mean, they talk about with new life, there's death all over, but I'm a new self, myself, I guess. In my mind, I picture it as like I'm walking out of my shell. It's a weird kind of thing to imagine, but I am just like kind of this new self and discovering things that I never really, that came to the surface before.
It's like I said, your journey, it's opened new doors for you. And
well, I never imagined talking on this podcast, but honestly, that's what's needed, because if I hadn't had those two gals reach out to me, I would have felt even more isolated and alone. And I'm not sure, I mean, I didn't grow up really, I think it goes back to kind of how you grow up, a little bit. We didn't talk about emotions. Life shouldn't be hard, so I was so unfamiliar with these emotions. And these gals reached out, thankfully, but it's still a journey. I mean, we went to, Faith's Lodge is in northern Wisconsin.
Yes.
We went 2 years in a row, and it's just reflecting back too, I'm really thankful we went for Blake's birthday, so that would have been like 6 months later. And then the following year, it was just very different. Not saying it was easier, it was just very different. But that really helped us normalize our experience. I still in awe of these families that have the courage to get up every single day. I mean, it is so hard.
Yes.
But that's you, though.
But
you
that's
have the
you.
courage
Well,
to get
exactly
up every
you.
single day.
Yeah. And it's hard, I guess, for me, again, I would suggest others to give themselves more grace, but I also have to tell myself to do the same. But it's a constant work in progress. And, unleashing the layers of a cake essentially is a weird analogy, but that's been told to me is you're just unleashing or unlayering these layers of just deep down emotions. And it's something that we'll have to grieve our whole life, which it's just sad, but it's also like relieving knowing like it's not to be rushed either.
Oh, that's a really good point.
It's
not to be rushed, and yet you say that this is a lifelong journey, but yet you also talk about the joy. So in this journey, there are days that you feel very joyful and your heart is full, and you continue that journey. And
yes.
It's
again for our family, it's taken, I say it's almost been 5 years in this journey. That isn't really that long, but it's been really a walk in faith. And I think my point being is I would just, for others to honor their emotions, I just felt like I wasn't able to. I remember, those really real and raw days. I couldn't go without crying all day long. I went to work probably a few weeks shortly after that, and I just needed somebody to say it's okay to cry, but no one does.
Okay,
so,
that's a good point.
Honestly, it's a very uncomfortable topic,
right?
But we need to normalize that and talk through it. So
it
you're
doesn't
absolutely
have to be.
right.
Feel your feelings.
Yeah. Yes. Oh.
And I have to say that I met you 3 years ago, probably, and I can say I haven't seen you smile this much.
Well, I will
ever.
say it took me time to be comfortable in my own skin,
and
to be honest.
I'm so happy because you have a beautiful smile and you bring so much joy, and you're sharing your joy, you're sharing your journey, and that's such a huge thing. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate you sharing Blake with us. And
yes,
I definitely want you back.
I definitely want, I want to be connected with others in so many ways. I kind of shoot out a weekly inspiration on Instagram just
I follow
because there is joy. And honestly, there's others that, need to be connected with that.
Well,
thank you. That's wonderful. Yes.
We appreciate you. You are not alone, and you definitely, we need you. Yes. We need you, and we need your joy.
I hope I, can at least provide some faith and hope for those in their future, because we all can experience joy along the way.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Cheers to faith and joy. All right. Thank you for joining us this week on One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast.
Thanks for listening to One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast. Life After Loss is a copyrighted production of One Bright Star. One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholtz and Associates. For more information on the lifelong journey after losing a loved one, please visit our website at onebrightstar.org.